Hey guys, what's up? It is very, very hot at the moment. It is swelteringly hot. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm melting at the moment. Um, and the age old question, would you rather be too warm or too cold? I'd rather be too cold. Because I feel like actually, if I'm too cold, it's easier to warm myself up. And if I'm too warm, which I am at the moment, it's so hard to cool yourself back down again. So, I hope that you're all enjoying the sun. I hope that you're all enjoying going out and enjoying the weather. But for me, it's just slightly too hot at the moment. I'd like it a few degrees cooler. But anyway, today's video, I thought I'd bring to you a verse which has inspired me and has made me think a lot about a few things. And I just thought I'd bring a few of those thoughts and I'll bring that verse to you today. And that verse is 1 Timothy 4:12. And the verse says this. It says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Instead, set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." And for me, this verse sets a few thoughts going around in my head. It brings back a few memories for me and a few things that sometimes I still go through today. And the first thought and the first set of memories that it sort of reminds me of is when I was younger, and even to this day, is it reminded me of the way that I dress. The fact that I wear hoodies, or wear trackies, high top trainers, snapbacks, all those kinds of things. And when I was a teenager, when I was a youth, I used to wear those things, and I still wear those things. But I wore those. I still wear those things a lot, but I used to wear those a lot as well. Back in the day, I used to wear those a lot all the time. For me, they're just really comfortable. They're really comfortable clothing, and I feel like I'm my own person when I'm wearing those clothes. I feel like I'm in my own skin. I just feel really comfortable in them. And yeah, it feels like me when I wear those kinds of clothes. It feels like it suits me. And for me, when I was younger, when I'd go out, and even today when I go out and I walk down the street and I'm wearing these clothes, you could sort of feel the judgment for what I look like because of the stereotypes. So when people looked at me, they probably just saw a young man that was wearing trackies and a snapback, and they didn't even know me. And when I was a teenager, in the news quite a lot was news about antisocial behaviour from young people that wore those kind of clothes. It made front page news. It was on TV all the time. It was on the internet. There was always articles. There's always something going on about antisocial youths that wore hoodies. And I could just tell sometimes that when people looked at me, that's what they saw. They didn't see me as a young person that was full of potential. They saw a potential threat. They saw somebody that might cause them trouble, might cause them harm. Even though I wasn't going to cause trouble and I wasn't going to cause them harm. And I could just feel that judgment, and it made me feel horrible. And sometimes where I felt that judgment would be when I was walking down the street. People would take one look at me and they'd cross the street and they'd go onto the opposite side of the street just because of the way that I dressed. And I've heard similar stories today of some teenagers, but just because of the way that they dress and the way that they talk, because of their accents, they feel judged, and they feel like people don't take them seriously, or they feel like people expect them to behave in certain ways, even though that's not them. And for me, I felt that way as well, and that was like a big part of my life growing up, was just that horrible feeling of just people looking at me and judging me just on the way that I dressed. Sometimes as well, growing up as well, I wouldn't really feel listened to either. And this is nothing to do with the way that I feel dressed, but this is just another thing of me feeling like people look down on me because I was young. It's people I just didn't really ever feel listened to sometimes by some adults. Sometimes it was my parents, sometimes it was a teacher, sometimes it might be other adults. I'd talk about things. We might be talking about a subject. I feel like input stuff. And I just didn't really feel like my opinions really mattered to people because I was young. I didn't really feel like, even if I was right about something, I didn't feel listened to. And sometimes on some things the adults were right, but it was the fact that I wasn't listened to which was important to me. It was the fact that my feelings and my thoughts and my opinions, it felt like they didn't matter. It felt like even though sometimes I knew I was wrong, sometimes I knew I was in the wrong, sometimes I knew I was right. It didn't matter whether I was wrong or right. It was a horrible feeling not feeling listened to, and not feeling like what I had to say was valid, or what I had to say had any bearing on the situation at all. And sometimes I was right, and I could see that I was right, and that was really, really frustrating. Um, and the third thing as well for me growing up as well is because I was young, I would wait. I would always think, okay, I'm only going to do things when I reach a certain age. So this was especially true in church as well. So when it came to serving, when it came to volunteering to do stuff, when it came time to run things, for the youth to run things, as it were, I'd only volunteer for certain things once I reached a certain age, because I'd be like, I can't do this thing, I can't lead, I can't preach because I'm not old enough yet. And I just want to say, actually, we just had a youth service on this Sunday just gone for the church, and I think that service showed me how wrong I was when I was younger, and hopefully it can show everybody that watched it, and everybody that was a part of it, that actually it doesn't matter how old you are, everybody gets to play. Everybody in the kingdom of Jesus gets to play. Jesus calls out both young people and old people alike. He calls them to serve his church, and he calls them to build his church together. He calls us to be together to do that. And the Bible was filled with God calling young people, with God calling sometimes really young people to do things for him, and to go out and love people. And on Sunday, I was really blessed. I was really encouraged, and I was really uplifted to witness youth leading worship, leading the service, teaching and preaching, and leading the prayers. And all of it was really heartfelt, and all of it that you could tell the prayers, and you could tell the teaching, you could tell the leading, and you could tell the worship. It came from the heart. And when God looks at us, he doesn't look at the age. He doesn't look at what our abilities are. He looks at our heart. He looks where our hearts lie. And he loves us for when our hearts are after him. And it doesn't matter how good we are at something. If our hearts are after him, he will respond in kind, and his love will it will engulf us. And it's amazing, and it's incredible. It's incredible to witness, and it's incredible to be part of. And I felt like the Sunday just gone, I got to witness that, and it was brilliant. But growing up, I always felt like, actually, for me, I couldn't be part of those things because I wasn't old enough, or I wasn't good enough. And some people, you might put yourselves off from serving or being part of church because you feel like you're not old enough. You're not old enough to do things, and you exclude yourself because you're not old enough. Other people, you might put other restraints on yourself for other reasons. There might be other things going on in your life where you think you're not good enough to be part of something because you don't feel good enough, you don't feel worthy enough. The truth of the matter is, I'm not worthy enough. None of us are worthy enough, because we all fall short. We all sin, and we all aren't good enough. But Jesus is good enough, and he looks at me and he calls me and he says, "You are good enough, Adam, to do some of the things that I've called you to do." And he's calling you. Whoever's watching this, whoever's listening to this video, he's calling you to do the same. He looks at you and goes, "You may not be good enough, but I am. And if I'm in you, that's all that matters. And if you love me, that's all that matters." And he looks at our hearts, and that's all that matters to him. So those are like my first few thoughts. And my other thoughts on this verse are about the speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. And I think these things, they all intertwine with one another. For me, speech and conduct often the things that we say and the things that we do, they come out of our heart, and what's in our heart and what's going on in our brains and our minds. And you can see that in today's day and age. You can see that actually in a lot of people's hearts is a lot of hatred. There's a lot of division. And you can see that in the way that people talk about other people, in the way that people treat other people. And actually, I think if you have love, if you have faith, and if you have purity, the speech and conduct will follow as well. And when I talk about love, I'm not talking about the love that you have for a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I'm talking about the love that you have to lay down your life for someone else potentially. I'm talking about the love where actually you're servant hearted, that you would do things for the sake of other people, for the sake of blessing other people. I'm talking about a kind of love where you don't fall in love, but where actually the love is a will, it is a choice, and it is a choice for you to love a person, even if they annoy you. And sometimes love is hard, because people will let you down, people will hurt you. But that kind of love, it is a choice. It is a choice to love. I'm talking about the kind of love that Jesus has for each and every one of us, where he served us, where he laid down his life for us, where he died. He died for us so that we could live. And that kind of love is a choice sometimes. It's a choice to turn to God and go, God, that love that you have for that person, I want some of that, please. Love me so I can love them. And I think if you have that, then actually the speech and conduct will follow, where actually your words and actions will follow. And I think faith is trusting God, and it's trusting God that actually that love, you can receive that love. And purity as well. Purity is a very loaded term, and I'm talking about spiritual purity as well as like purity and other ways that you may imagine. And purity can be difficult, but we're made pure by Jesus. We're made pure by him. And sometimes we can feel dirty and we can not feel pure at all. But we are made and washed clean by Jesus. And it's funny because the more I spend time with people and the more I spend time listening and being with people, the more you become like them. The more you talk like them, the more you walk like them. And I see this because actually for me, like I see this in my family, because when I film these videos, I look at myself and I think, man, you look just like dad. Your dad, I look just like my dad. I look just like my brother, and I talk just like them as well. And that's because I spent a lot of time with them. The more that we spend time with Jesus, the more we spend time in his presence, in his Holy Spirit, worshipping him and reading the Bible, the more we look like him. The more that actually we're gonna be pure, the more that we're gonna be loving, the more we're gonna have more faith, the more that we're gonna have the right speech and the right conduct, and the more we're gonna be an example to other people. And it doesn't matter how old or how young you are. There's no limit to Jesus in being able to spend time with him and doing that. So I just really encourage you guys today to think about these things and to think about how you can be loving, and how you can change, and how you can do all these things, and how actually you shouldn't let people look down upon you because you look a certain way, because you are young, or because you think may think a certain way. I'd encourage you to run to Jesus, really run to him, really run to his spirit, really get into his word, really bite into it. Because the more you get into that, and the more the fact that you are young, the more the fact that you may dress a certain way won't matter. Because actually you will set an example to those people around you, because you'll be like Jesus. And that's my aim. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's what I'm trying to do in my life. You know, I still dress the same way. And I'm trying to be more like Jesus. I'm trying to have more of these things. I'm trying to be an example in speech, in what I say. I'm trying to be an example in what I do. And I'm trying to be an example in how I love and how I have faith, and in my purity as well. And that can be really difficult. And sometimes I'll fall and I'll make mistakes. And sometimes you all fall and make mistakes. But there's enough grace from Jesus to cover that. There is enough grace for you, and there's enough grace for me. So yeah, that's today's video. I hope it puts some food for thought for you guys. And I just really encourage you guys just to think about that today. And I just want to pray for myself and for all of you at the end of this video. So I just want to pray, Lord Jesus, I thank you that you died for each and every one of us. Lord, I thank you that you call out anybody. You call out anybody that loves you, and you run after them. Lord, I thank you that you're a God that cares for us deeply and intimately. And Lord Jesus, I thank you that you can change lives, that you can change us. And Lord, I just pray for myself, and I pray for anybody that's watching this video. Lord, I pray that you'd help me and you'd help the person that may be watching or listening to this. Lord, I pray that you'd help us in speech. Lord, I pray that you'd help us in what we do. Lord, I pray that you'd help us in love, faith, and purity. Lord, help us grow in these areas. And Lord, help us be an example to those around us. Lord, society seems really divided right now. Lord, help us be an example to society on what all these things look like. In your name I pray. Amen.